Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and I'm very excited for today's album. It's one of the most important landmark albums of all time, which is, of course, Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth from 1988. Just a masterpiece of experimental rock, indie rock, and noise rock. Oh my goodness. I'm very excited to share it with you guys. So let's dive in to track number 1, which is called Teenage Riot.
Everybody's talking about the stormy weather. What's a man to do but work out whether it's true? Looking for a man with a focus and a temper who can open up a map and see between 1 and 2. Time to get it before you let it get to you. Here he comes now. Stick to your guns and let him through. Everybody's coming from the winter vacation, taking in the sun and exaltation to you. You come running in on platform shoes with Marshall stats to at least just give us a clue. Oh, here it comes. I know it's someone I knew. Teenage riot in a public station, gonna fight and tear it up in a hyper nation for you. Now I see it. I think I'll leave it out of the way. Now I come near you, but it's not clear why you make the way.
Oh my goodness, just such an amazing, epic indie rock song. It's such a classic at this point. And, you know, it's basically about politics and about how every generation is trying to find somebody to lead them who understands their voice and their opinions and, you know, their drive to change the world for the better, because obviously each new generation has a different way of approaching life. They have their own goals and aspirations. You know, like this generation's version would be things like gay rights and transgender rights and gender fluid rights, climate change policies, you know, the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, every generation is trying to make a change, and we're trying to better ourselves as a culture, as a society. And it takes young minds to do that, right? Because the older generation is kind of set in their ways. You know, things aren't great necessarily, but they're not bad. Everyone's comfortable, so they don't really want any radical change. It takes young people to, you know, do the riots, to do the protests, and to actually get things done and to make life better for as many people as possible. So that's what this song means to me, is it's every generation's call to arms to try to find someone to lead us through the dark and to better human civilization. So anyway, I love this song. But let's move on to track number 2, which is called Silver Rocket.
Attracted to the wall TV, amplifier blowing in the hall. Get sled clothes and keep them times to the organizer cranking on the knob. You got it. Yeah, ride the silver rocket. I can't stop it. A burning hole in your pocket. Hit the power cycle, helmets on, you got to splash your head out, take you to a moon. And if I climb a few, that's the hammer, you got to take out the robot and protect the zoo. Got it. You're right, a silver rocket. I can't stop it. A burning hole in your pocket.
Yeah, so Sonic Youth are one of those bands who are known for their kind of dense and poetic and hard to figure out lyrics. But I think this is kind of simple, to be honest, on this track. The silver rocket, I would imagine, is the heroin needle that he's using to shoot up. You know, he says he can't stop it, and it's burning a hole in his pocket. So, you know, on one hand, it's an amazing thing in his life because he's experiencing this tremendous high that is giving him all of these ideas, you know, for his art. And it's also just making him appreciate life in ways that normal people who don't take drugs have a hard time understanding. I mean, I've heard so many stories from people who take drugs and mushrooms and things like that. And, you know, they always say the same thing, you know, it just completely transforms their worldview, and they never think about life in the same way. Since, you know, they never think of it in the same way after they've taken drugs. So the unfortunate problem is when you take drugs, you know, 3 things happen. 1 is it costs a lot of money. 2 is you run the risk of getting addicted to it, which is a horrible state to be in. And then 3, it's illegal pretty much everywhere. So basically, it's kind of funny if you think about it, how, you know, the only way to reach this transcendent state of mind is to do something that is really bad for you, right? That's completely shunned, that's illegal, that costs a lot of money, that could ruin your life. The only way to reach that state of mind, this nirvana, so to speak, is to run the huge risk of destroying your life. So anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if Sonic Youth was all about the heroin. But anyway, you know, that's Silver Rocket for you. Let's move on to track number 3, which is called The Sprawl.
I've gone native. I wanted to know the exact dimensions of hell. Does this sound simple? Fuck you. Are you for sale? Does fuck you sound simple enough? This was the only part that turned me on. But he was candy all over. Come on down to the store. You can buy some more. Come on down to the store. Some more. Come on down to the store. You can buy some more. Come on down to the store. You can buy some more.
Yeah, I really love this song because it kind of has a double meaning, right? On the surface, it sounds like it's about a prostitute and the life of a prostitute and how she's getting used to it. You know, she's gone native, so to speak. So she's lived this life for so long that, you know, it's totally been normalized for her. So she has no real issues with it. But I think the more interesting way to look at this song is it's probably also about selling out as a band. And what I mean by that is, you know, basically the record labels see this young, successful cult band, Sonic Youth, and they want to make a bunch of money off of them. Right? So they're trying to figure out a way to get them on their side and to commercialize them and to make them follow trends and to sell out, you know, and become someone who they're not really. So, you know, it's much like a prostitute, where a prostitute will do anything that you want as long as you get the money for it, right? So a band that's going to sell out is going to, you know, do whatever genre the label wants, or, you know, try to write hit songs to get on the radio, or dress in a certain way to appeal to, you know, certain fans. You know, like how, for example, all of the pop metal bands of the 80s, they all dressed the exact same way. Very flamboyant, long hair, you know, it was just the same look. Like nobody, there were no pop metal bands in the 80s who had short hair and looked like the Beatles, right? that like wore all black, you know, and skinny jeans and stuff. So this song is kind of about 2 different things, you know. It's equating prostitution to the act of selling out as a band, where you're selling your integrity, right? If you just follow trends and do what the label is forcing you to do. So that's what the song means to me. It's about, I imagine, it's about Sonic Youth's own way. It's about how Sonic Youth probably had to deal with this in their career, where they were probably tempted to sell out, but they didn't. So thank goodness, because Daydream Nation was a result of that. So I appreciate that. But anyway, let's move along to track number 5, which is called Eric's Trip.
I can't see anything at all. All I see is me. That's clear enough. That's what's important. To see me. My eyes can focus. My brain is talking. It looks pretty good to me. My head's on straight. My girlfriend's beautiful. It looks pretty good to me. Sometimes I speak. Tonight there's nothing to say. Sometimes we freak and laugh all day. Hold these pages up to the light. See the jackknife inside of the dream. The railroad runs through the record stores at night, coming in for the deep freeze. A simple word. Are you there in the cold country?
So this song is very important to me lyrically, because it makes me think about myself and the fact that, as a bipolar person, I go through periods where my mind goes blank. I'm not very interesting. I'm not very funny. I'm not the greatest person socially. So I struggle. But, it's a song about being okay with who you are, even if you're not perfect. You're not always the funny guy. You're not always the interesting guy with, funny stories at parties that you're always telling everyone or whatever. You don't always have to be the toast of the town, so to speak. You don't always have to be the cool guy. So, it sounds like on this song, or at least on part of this song, he's addressing the fact that all he sees is himself, and sometimes being himself involves being kind of lame, being kind of boring, being kind of uninteresting at times. And he's learning to accept that. He's learning to understand that that's just part of who he is. He isn't always going to be the coolest guy in the room who's the life of the party, right? Maybe sometimes he is. Maybe sometimes he is after taking drugs or whatever, or getting really drunk. So I always interpret this song as about self-acceptance, because in my own life, I have a hard time with self-acceptance, in the sense that, like, sometimes I just think that I'm not doing anything right, or people notice that I'm quiet or whatever. And I just got to be okay with who I am, no matter whether I'm interesting and talkative or whether I'm quiet and boring. So anyway, I like the song quite a bit. But let's move on to a favorite of mine, which is track 6. It's called Total Trash.
It started at the top, now it's spiraling down. Works best when it's lost, digging underground. Never mind it now, we can bring it back. It's total trash, and it's a natural fact that I'm not no cow. It's never the same, it's more than a game. Can't take it away, can't kill out the shame. It's a guilty man that can grease the crack. It's total trash, slap him on the back with a heavy rock.
So this song is kind of famously hard to figure out, right? People have their own ideas about what he's talking about here. It's definitely related to drugs. You can say that. So the way I think about this song is he's kind of touching upon how, a lot of executives will, help their bands and their artists get access to drugs and alcohol to keep them going, right? To keep their inspiration going. Because, I know it's true in Hollywood in particular that a lot of these people at the top, they provide their actors and actresses with like cocaine and uppers and things of that nature to keep them, motivated and energized and on the up and up so that they can, do these grueling schedules that they have for their movies and things like that. Because I think of this because at the end of the clip he says, it's a guilty man that increased the crack, slap him on the back with a heavy rock. So in other words, like their reward for doing a good job is more drugs that'll hopefully, give them experiences that'll help inspire new songs and more hits and things like that. So, that's just my interpretation of this song. I would love to hear what you think it's about in the comments. I've been reading different people's thoughts and opinions on this song, and people have kind of different takes on it. But that's my take on it, right? Is it's about the music industry and the movie industry and how they'll feed your addiction because all they really care about really is that you're performing so that they make money, right? But anyway, so that is Total Trash. I really love the sound of the song. But let's move along to track 7, which is called Hey Joni.
Just say yes. Tell me, Joni, am I the one to see you through? In this broken town, can you still jack in and know what to do? I remember our youth, our high ideals. I remember you were so uptight. That time in the trees, we broke that vice. We took some steps and now we can't think twice.
So I really appreciate this song and kind of sort of what he's touching upon a little bit in the sense that I imagine these two people are together and they have a history together that isn't necessarily the greatest history, but the guy is like, forget the past and just say yes. He's acknowledging the fact that time has elapsed, that people have had the ability to grow and to mature and become an adult and to change their negative ways into positive things, right? Maybe they used to be a jerk or something, but now they're a good guy and they're a family man maybe, or they help out in their community, or just in general they're a good person now, But I wouldn't say this is unfair, but for a lot of people, they don't like to give people a second chance because of how they were treated in the past by this person. Maybe they were bullied in high school, for example, or maybe you did the bullying in high school and the other person just always thinks of you as a horrible person for the rest of their life. When in reality, maybe you learned your lessons, you feel really guilty, you've thought about it, you went to therapy and you realized the error of your ways, and now you're a better person. So to me, this song is really about, the ability to recognize that somebody has become a better person and to not judge them for things they've done in the past. Let's go on a little bit of a tangent here with things like the prison system, right? The idea there is you did something, it was illegal, you got caught, you got convicted, you got tried and sentenced, and you did your 10 years or whatever. Well, isn't it fair to say that, okay, you did your time, you paid the penalty, should we forgive you now? Should we give you a second chance, so to speak? Would that be fair? Or are you just forever tainted by what you did? I think that's a question that we're still asking ourselves. But I would imagine most people would say, no, I still think of them as that horrible person who committed the crime. Depending on what the crime is. If it's just like, I sold some weed and I did 5 years, I mean, whatever. But if the guy like raped a kid and got out in 20 years, I mean, yeah, I don't know about that. But anyway, so that's just something to think about. This song makes you think about all these things. Can you ever forgive someone, basically, and move on and treat them as a new person? So I like where he's going here a little bit. But anyway, so the last track that I want to talk about is track 11, so we're going to skip a few. It's called Kissability. Yeah, this is such a great song. It's a very feminist song because she's acknowledging the fact that, unfortunately, when it comes to movie stars, at least, the number one thing is just how attractive you are, how beautiful you are. Do you have kissability, right? And when it comes to women, unfortunately, things like how smart you are and how funny you are kind of like second place in terms of, how hot are you? Exactly. So I imagine they're talking about that and how, unfortunately, it's a struggle for women to be seen as more than just sex objects, right? Women are still, to this day, struggling to be seen as equal, to not be immediately dismissed as like, oh, they can't possibly know that, because there are certain things that like men are supposed to know everything about and women are supposed to know about certain other things, and they're not supposed to intersect, right? But, there are plenty of women who are very, very smart and very funny and who fix cars and who love sports and, are very strong and they work out or whatever it is. So she's just commenting on how unfortunate it is that still to this day, when it comes to movie stars, it's mostly about, how attractive are you, and everything else is kind of like a bonus. So anyway, I think things have gotten much better in, the 30-ish years since this album came out. I would say it's gotten a lot better. There's definitely more diversity. We're not just assuming that women can't be funny or they can't be great actors or whatever. So anyway, that's Kissability. That's the album, really. It's just a really epic, really kind of experimental, noisy, art rock type of vibe. I love both singers, Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon. They're just terrific. They really help sell the whole thing. So anyway, I hope you thought it was interesting. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. But yeah, that is Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth. Check it out and have a good one.